and I have a small puppy here next to me. Let me see if I can show you. She looks like Falcor in the Neverending Story.
Oh, so she does. Falcor's great
Yeah,
granddaughter or grandson.
look at her eyes. They're light blue and
They
long, long
are.
lashes.
Wow. What's her name?
Her name is Daisy.
Daisy. Hi,
It's a
Daisy.
Bichon Havanese, and she's allergic friendly. So you see
Oh,
her
she's
eyes
lovely.
are very,
Yeah,
yeah,
they're very striking.
yeah.
Wow.
She's an
She's
angel.
lovely.
Yeah,
She
she's
is
lovely.
lovely.
She's an
Yeah,
angel.
she is definitely an ancestor of Falcor. She is
Yeah,
definitely, yeah.
and she's here from another galaxy.
I could well believe that.
Yeah,
She's here for you. She's here to guide you and protect you.
she is indeed. It's like, she, from the moment that I've heard of her, and when I got her, it was like 3 days. Her mother is a rescue dog, so it's also like I'm doing a good deed by taking her on.
Yeah.
But from when I heard about her, and then so it took me 3 days, and it was in such a good time because with everything that is going on globally.
Mhm.
So it's just been me and her in this little puppy bubble. So I don't have to worry about anything because as an empath and introvert and
Yeah.
highly sensitive person, you do, feel everything so much. And sometimes you
Absolutely.
don't even know what it is that you're feeling.
Yes, I
So,
can understand that.
so then it's good to have a loving distraction.
Yes, and the thing, just before we introduce you to our guest here, because we are live, I think it with an animal, especially a dog, is that a dog will never judge you, will never stop loving you. You know, I always remark about that too because I have a Belgian Shepherd, so she's quite a big dog, and she can be very, very fierce. And if that dog wanted to, it could really bite my arm in two. But I've stood in her paws and, accidentally hit her and stuff like that and just done things on her. And that dog would never, ever think of using its strength or using its might to, attack me, even though that dog could do me serious damage. And it goes to show you the protection and the love, the unequivocal love that our animals have of us. And we can learn a great deal from animals. And they'll always be there, they'll always be loyal.
Indeed. Animals, many animals like dogs particularly, and many animals have a higher frequency of love than most humans have. So
Yeah.
indeed, we can learn a lot from these beautiful beings.
Absolutely. Okay, well, I guess I better introduce you, because this interview is probably not going to be edited. So anyone who's just tuned in is going to be watching, wondering what is going on here. I'm your podcast host, the Zenith. As usual, you're very welcome to another episode of the Spirit Channel. I'm here with the lovely Ulrika Karlsson. As you can see, her nickname is Ulis. She is Swedish and she is a lovely, lovely woman. We've just been having a little discussion just beforehand, and when I pressed the live button there, we were just carrying on. So please excuse us. But let me just introduce Ulrika. Ulrika is a feminist or feminine leadership coach. She is an international spiritual teacher. She is a yoga teacher and therapist. She is also a public speaker. She has 28 years in various holistic disciplines. She is the author of 247, The Journey Home to the Heart, which was published in 2019. And she is also the author of Holy Fuck and Sacred Water, which was published in 2020. I think she runs a group, and I can't even remember my writing here, but it says something Women Incorporated. Ulrika will have to pick up on that because I've handwritten that and can't even remember my own handwriting. She also is a tantric yoga and meditation expert, and she teaches a form of this to people as part of her coaching and teaching. So I hope that's enough of, though I've just remembered, it's Passionate Women Incorporated. Is that a Facebook group, Ulrika?
No, I mean, I work mainly with women because women tend to be more open and to be more looking to the spiritual realms than the men. I'm speaking generally here, of course. So So I mainly work with anybody who wants to get closer to their heart and closer to who they truly are at the soul level. And so I'm not for everybody, actually. I in numerology, I'm a number 11 and also number 8. So number
Okay.
11 is a master's number, and an 8 is here to inspire. And sometimes the inspiration can happen through challenging or provoking people. So either way is good, because
Yeah.
either way we get to tap into a higher potential of who we are and higher consciousness.
I think I'm a 6 and a 22. I can't quite remember, but I know that their master numbers, or one of them is a master number. And numerology, like many things, is just something that I have an interest in, but there's just too much out there for one person to learn in kind of one lifetime, unless they're leading the life of a hermit or a monk and just devote every single day to studying new topics of interest, or spirituality, or holistic disciplines, or forms of my mind has went blank. Anyway, things like that there. But yes, you just mentioned one point there, Ulrika, is, and I kind of made this point before, is when we see seminars, we see like spiritual gatherings or groupings or anything that is in that kind of holistic field, or anything that may fall under the kind of spiritual umbrella, any kind of public speaking or coaching. 99% of it is made up, well, maybe not 99%, but at least 95% of it is made up of women. There's very, very few men are in attendance to these things. And certainly it's my experience that even within the kind of spiritual umbrella community, within the likes of psychic work or mediumship, or maybe perhaps you can identify with this as well, is that even men within them disciplines are either of bisexual, gay, or very femininely oriented. There's very kind of traditional masculine male people within those fields. I know a number of mediums, and they're either gay, bisexual, or very, very in touch with their feminine side. So I'm wondering if you've any kind of thoughts on that.
That's my experience as well. As I said just recently, generally. Oh, you just
That's
left.
okay. I made you full screen so people can
Oh, okay.
concentrate on you.
Oh, I was like, oh, you just left the call. No, I mean, we live in the Western world, and we have so many unconscious programs that are going on, unconscious programs that we don't even, we don't even know that we have them. And still, many men are under the programs that they have to be, the family provider, or, I mean, my gosh, there's so many programs that we have. And these programs, of course, affects our behaviors, our thoughts, our lives. um, but I mean, we all are spiritual beings living in human bodies and having this human experience, but we all are spiritual beings. But I truly believe that in the midst of these times that we are in now, like, I see it as a global awakening, a global paradigm, a huge, massive, intense shift, where the feminine, I mean, regardless if I'm in a feminine body or if a masculine body, we all have yin and yang. These are the energies of polarities of life that we all are and we all have within us. But for thousands of years, the feminine, the divine feminine, has been really suppressed, and our societies has enhanced and increased the value of the masculine. And the masculine that has been, for thousands of years, is not the divine masculine, but what I call the immature, the unconscious masculine. And so what we need to do is to raise the frequency from the immature and unconscious feminine, because we also have this in Western societies, and then we have the unconscious masculine, and we need to raise the vibration, the frequency, raise the consciousness, and coming back home to the divine feminine and divine masculine. And I'm just going to give some examples on how the immature or unconscious feminine might
Mm-hmm.
look like. It can be a lot of focus on your appearance. It can be sort of manipulation, can be in the energies of the immature or unconscious feminine. And the immature and unconscious masculine can be this always moving, being productive, working, being busy, being the good girl or the good guy.
Mm-hmm.
So we all have these energies, as we see in the societies today, to make a lot of money. It's like the immature and unconscious masculine. So we have lived in this unconsciousness for thousands of years, and they are programs to keep us down from the divine beings that we truly are. So most of us, we also have individually have this imbalance of the feminine and the masculine, regardless of the gender. Since I am in a female body, I tend to have more of the yin energy, more of the feminine energy, and you as in a male body, most men tend to have more of the masculine energy, more of the yang energy. But the society has suppressed the feminine for such a long time, and I'm actually writing a new book about this,
Okay.
about the divine soul and all these global things that we are going through right now, individually and collectively. It's like a purge. It's like, the old ways needs to die so the new ways can have their space and can come to alive. I need to take this off. My puppy is biting me.
Daisy,
So
no.
Daisy, so we are in the midst of an elevation, an ascension in frequency, regardless if I am in a female body or in a masculine body. We all are there, and it's going to be a bit different from where we are in the world, who we are, what luggage do we have with us. So, but it's very exciting. Like on a soul level, we have all chosen to be here. We have all chosen to be
Yeah.
here in this time.
Yeah, it can be very hard. I don't know about Sweden, but certainly in I guess the UK in general, because that's, well, Ireland, UK, whatever you want to call it. We'll not get into that. When I kind of look around and I think about this coming shift, and I think about this ascension process, and I understand, or to my belief, that it's not going to be for everybody. There's not everybody on this planet it's will kind of make it, if you like, or will be ready for this ascension. And even if we talk about most people who are ready for this ascension, I kind of look around and I look at the mentality, if you like, the unbalanced nature of society. We talk about the masculine. I still see so many immature masculine males who are still kind of falling into that, wolf whistle, haven't grown out of that teenage boy phase. And I still see so many women, young women, kind of older women, who still, as you say, fall into that kind of young feminine energy, where it's kind of all about the appearance and it's all designed to impress, or attract attention. And within society at large, we see, and this is one of the things that I kind of almost want to bang my head against the wall for, because we're trying to bring these deeply important concepts. We're trying to make people aware of them, trying to get them ready for the ascension process. And yet, our spiritual information and spiritual concepts makes up a tiny percentage of the nation's interest, of the global community's interest. I've talked about this so many times before, is that we have people who are influencers and all this sort of reality TV stars, and it just seems to be so shallow. I kind of wonder how or where or when is this ascension process going to happen, because it doesn't seem to be any time too soon.
So we are in the midst of it. Like old tribes and natives, and the yogic perspective also. The yogic literature can be described from, maybe 12,000 years ago, and they wrote about this paradigm, the paradigm of the human evolution, the divine soul evolution, and natives knew about this as well, like the Mayan who wrote the Maya calendar, if
Yep.
you're familiar with that, like from the year of 2012, that things were going to crumble, all the systems that are familiar to us were going to crumble and fall. So we are in the midst of it, and as you say, we cannot force anybody to sort of wake up or to have a higher consciousness. It is designed by each and one of us individual soul. So first there are our individual souls, and then there's this world, the soul of the world, like collectively. So there are so many timelines at the moment. People who are ready, people who are not ready, people who are already there in a higher frequency and a higher timeline. And I get what you're saying, because I too have sort of trying to pull people up to my timeline and to my energy, but it's not going to happen. It's only going to happen when they are fully and ready to do so by themselves. And sometimes an awakening, like my own awakening, my first book, like 2:47 a.m., The Journey Home to My Heart, I was depressed and suicidal, and I was burnt out. So I needed to change my whole life and my perspective, and that's how yoga found me, and I found spirituality. Because most of us, as we said, we are spiritual beings, but most of us, we are too busy in our everyday life. So we are not connected to spirit, and we are not connected to who we are at the soul level. And just take a look at how we are living. Like, take America, for instance. They live in big cities, in high skyscrapers. And so that means that you are so much away from the earth, from being grounded. And like, women have high heeled shoes. So this means that we are not grounded. We have not entered into our bodies. And in my community, many people talk about the ascension and the elevation and to being enlightened. But this is just in the upgoing flow, the masculine flow that we have had for thousands of years, the rational thinking, the logic mind. So this is the ascending flow within in the energetic system of our physical bodies. And the descending flow, which is the feminine, which is the flow back into our bodies, into our hearts, and to connect with Mother Earth. Because just take a look how we are treating Mother Earth. We are polluting her waters, which we are writing about in this book, Holy Fuck and Sacred Water. So we are polluting ourselves with our minds, with our thoughts, with our stressful lives. So we are polluting us as individuals, and then I bring my polluted, disconnected energy out into collective consciousness. So, and if I am not connected to myself, to my heart, to my body, not connected to Gaia, then then I can treat myself badly, and I can treat others badly. So, because if I would be connected to my heart, if I would be in balance of the ascending and the descending flow, and they, by the way, meet in the heart, if I would be there and I would be balanced, then I would not treat myself badly. Then there would be no needs to rape myself or anybody else, or to rape Gaia. But the way we are living at the moment, it's not sustainable. And that's why this global ascension process needs to be done. Because we are living in ways where we're disconnected from nature, disconnected from ourselves, and we are living lives that are not sustainable. So this is, for me, about going back to basic, going back to, sinking down into the body, descending into the body, descending into the heart, and to merge the sacred feminine and the sacred masculine. Because qualities of the sacred feminine is love, unconditional love, and also compassion. And in our parts of the world, we don't have so much unconditional love. We have conditioned love, programmed love, that we think that we have to do things to earn love, or we have to look in a way or be in a certain way, or I love you if you love me back, or I love you if if you are good at work, or if you make a lot of money, or whatever. So we have these unconscious and limited beliefs that we need to earn love. So it means that it's conditional. And this is also the way how we look upon ourselves. Oh, I need to lose weight, or I need to look like this. I need to be that. I need to perform at job. I need to be whatever. The list goes on and on. And all of this is preventing us from being in our hearts, where there's unconditional love. And we are all from divine source, right?
Yeah.
Each and one of us are unique expression from divine source. But if we are disconnected to ourselves, to our bodies, to our hearts, then we're also disconnected to the source, right?
Absolutely.
So I truly believe that those souls who have signed the contracts before they came here, because it's not a coincidence that that we are alive. All these people that are walking on the earth today, it's not a coincidence. And we are here. We're here for the evolution of the soul. And it might look a bit different for each and one of us, but and some of us might have chosen not to ascend, or not to.
Yeah.
We want to experience a life in matrix, in 3D dimension, and so it can be a contract that we have, and then it's okay, because then it is the soul that has chosen their path. So there's no right or wrong. I'm better than you. I'm more developed. I'm more enlightened, because our soul has chosen it for us long before we came down into these bodies.
Yeah, I fully agree with everything you said there. And just listening to you, we could take this conversation in about 5 different ways, because there were so many things that I wanted to pick your brain about. But I guess we need to kind of start with your journey, because you brought up your first book there, and that's obviously very significant as a part in your life, a massive part in your life. And listening to you and listening to what your book refers to, I'm not too sure how many people could have gone through what you've kind of went through, but it's obviously led you to be the person that you are today, and those traumas and that period of your life, or I guess it's more fair to say that you wouldn't be the person that you are today, sharing this information and helping so many people in the ways you do without that trial and that kind of tribulation. So if you could you tell us what this book 2:47 a.m. is about, and what part that played in your life, and why you named that book that?
So it's called 2:47 a.m. because that's the time that I woke up for decades. I woke up at 2:47 a.m. every night after 15 minutes of sleep. And I woke up at that time, and every night I was in my dreams of these 15 minutes of sleep. I was murdered. I was tortured and slaughtered, and there was blood splattering dreams that I woke up 2:47 every night with silent screams and with blood taste in my mouth. And this was, when I look back into this, it was my soul's way of saying that you're not aligned. You're not aligned to who you are and who you're supposed to be, because I was the good girl. I was very I've had eating disorders my whole life, sleeping disorders my whole life. At a very, very early age, I was an empath and a highly sensitive person, but I didn't know it at the time. So I felt so much, and I suppressed so much, because as a Swede, we even have, like in our DNA, that who do you think you are? You should not be too much. You should not be too happy, too horny, too sad, too angry. You should just be normal. And when you have, this flat line, it means that you're sort of dead, like the heart goes up and down. But here in Sweden, we are very conformed and very molded into to not being too much, to not express too much, and not to. So I learned in a very early age, unconsciously, to shut myself down and to suppress the strong feelings that I had, and my strong intuition that I had. I had to sort of suppress it and hide it because it was too much. People couldn't handle me. It made them nervous or uncomfortable or unease. So, and we want to be part of the community. We want to be part of the flock, like the wolves. So we try to adapt to the norms that somebody, and I mean, norm is just some people have said that this is normal, this is not normal, and who are they to decide what is normal and not normal? So the norm, it's a fucking big program in itself. So but I learned early to adapt and to suppress my emotions and to my feelings, and you can do it up to a point unconsciously, but the soul, it's nagging you, it's giving you a lot of signs, it's giving you a lot of communication, but I didn't listen. I did not listen. So the soul, I'm stubborn as hell. I'm an Aries, so I'm hot-headed, I'm passionate, I have a lot of strength, a lot of stamina. Aries is the first sign in the zodiac, so the leader, the bold and the fearless leader. So I was so stubborn and good, the good girl, even at suppressing my feelings and my emotions. So my soul decided that, oh my God, okay, so we have tried to reach out to this girl for decades, and she's not listening. So yeah, let's give her a wake-up call. So, and I got this wake-up call indeed, and so I share it in 2:47 a.m., the journey home to my heart. And I actually write about the vulnerable moments where I'm facing the dark in me, all the suppressed fears, insecurities, anxieties. So it's a book that is here to inspire you to face your fears and to go into the darkness, because I can never be the light that I want to be if I don't face the darkness that I have inside of me and transform the darkness into light. So the more darkness and the more fears and stress and traumas and accumulated emotions that I face, acknowledge, feel, and transform, the more access I have to my light.
Absolutely.
So I say that this book is like a trampoline for you to dive into your own darkness. So it's not like a feel-good book, but it is a feel-good book because I'm alive and I'm here, and it's necessary. I cannot evolve. I mean, we all know that there's no growth in the comfort zone, right? The growth is always outside of the comfort zone. So by sharing my raw and vulnerable, process and my dark feelings, I'm also sharing and inspire other people to do the same. And I'm here with a mission. I know that I'm here with a mission because I also do soul readings, like karma clearings.
Okay.
And when I did my own karma clearings a couple of years ago, I have something that in that modality is called 2 God sparks. And that means that I'm here not only for myself, but I'm also here, to do something bigger for the collective consciousness. And each and one of us, like you, Sanith, and I, and each and one of us, and you who's listening, who are dealing and really facing your own traumas and releasing your suppressed emotions, we are contributing to more light. We are contributing to this higher timeline, this higher consciousness. And if I am upholding the energy of suppressing trauma, suppressing emotions, I am upholding the energy, of the unconscious darkness.
Brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. And just once again, there's so many different points that I want to talk about in this. I guess even just kind of looking at you and listening to you, it's quite obvious that you are kind of free now. You're free of the constraints of society. You know, you're just living the way that you want to do without a care for how society views you, how society thinks of you. You're living in alignment with yourself. That's quite obvious to me, just sitting here looking to you and listening to you. And it's such a beautiful and inspirational thing to have someone who goes, look, this is me and this is the real me and I don't care. And there are so many people, as you quite rightly say, who are so caught up in that narrative of what society deems that I should be this way. So I have to be this way. I have to look this way. I have to think this way. I can't express my opinion. Or just kind of I had something there and it's gone. It's completely gone out of my head. Yeah, there's just so many people who are still caught up in that. And yes, that's what it was. Thank you very much for giving that inspiration. Who are afraid to be vulnerable, who are afraid, as you've quite rightly done in your book, as brought the dark points, brought the dark times in your life, the things that you potentially could have kept hidden, and brought them up to the fore and said, look, these are as much as part of me as the good parts. And by doing that there, you're inspiring other people to be honest with themselves and other people too, because we don't allow ourselves to be vulnerable within society. We don't say, look, you know, everybody, I was just talking about this very recently, everybody is kind of like living in this false fantasy where they bump into one another every day and say that everything is good in their life, everything is going well, without actually saying, well, things aren't quite so well in my life. You know, I have frailties, vulnerabilities, I have family issues, I have mental health problems. And by allowing ourselves to be vulnerable and by sharing our vulnerabilities, we can inspire other people to do the same. And from that kind of base point, we can then start to move forward as a society, as a human race.
I totally agree, but also it is so important not to judge, I'm free and you're not, I'm on a high timeline and you're not, I'm more evolved than you are, because the soul chooses, and it's designed that way for each and one of us. And I think that is great, because we cannot compare to anybody else. The only that I can compare to is myself and my own journey. And everything is about evolution, whether we like it or not. I mean, we are not the same people today as yesterday when we woke up, because even though that we're sitting here having this beautiful heartfelt conversation, cells within me are dying, and I'm not even conscious that these cells are dying, and new cells are born. And I don't, it's not like I'm feeling, oh, now thousands of cells were dying and I got 10 another beautiful cells. And here is the thing: within our cells, within our DNA, as I'm writing about in this book, and this book is also like a book that reactivates your dormant inner codes. So if I have, my limited beliefs or my programs with me from this moment to this moment, where cells are dying and being reborn, then the cells take the cell memory with it, from moment to moment. So that's why it's so important, as we write in the Holy Fucking Sacred Water, to, to clear out even cell memories of who we think we are, who we consciously think we are, because we are so much more. I mean, we are freaking stardust. We are the same elements that the star contains of, but we have forgotten, because we are so polluted with our busy lives and comparing and trying to fit in. So it's so important that also to honor your own journey. And I mean, if you want to dive deeper into this, as I said, I do karma clearings and soul readings, and it's so beautiful, to help one soul at a time to realize who they truly are, who we truly are. And I think that, eventually, because universe is also beautifully designed, universe is, has such a higher consciousness than we do, even though that we try to control our universe, we try to control everything, but the universe is designed to, to move us forward, to move us into the better versions of ourselves all the time, better version of me, better version of you, individually and also collectively. So that's how
Mhm.
the universe is designed. And we are, fighting against it. We are trying, to hold on to things, or to hold on to my weight, to hold on to this limited belief, to hold on to the money, to hold on to whatever. So
Attachments.
exactly. So we are fighting, the natural divine force of the universe. And I think that this is what this paradigm is all about, that to surrendering again into the feminine, because the feminine is so much about surrendering. I have no idea. I don't know, I don't know. And you said that I am a free spirit and my body is really free, but I'm still living here in Matrix. Still need money to pay my rent and
Yeah.
to pay for the food for my teenagers and my puppy. But if the more I am aligned with who I am, the more flow I have, like the energy is working itself out. So logically, I can't tell you how I get money because I don't work. I don't have, like, I get some soul readings here, I sell a book there, I do some consultations, but I lost my yoga studio like 2.5 years ago.
Right.
So I'm
Okay.
living on savings, and I'm living on the belief that everything is energy, like
Yeah.
money is energy. And the more I clear out of my old shit, the more I make room and space for other things to come in. So I think that, I'm not, near of being finished or who I am.
Yeah.
I'm not ready. I don't think I will ever be ready, but I'm a better person today than I was yesterday, because I have more access to do more conscious choices the more I clear out of my suppressed emotions, my inner insecurities, anxieties, whatever.
Yeah.
So, and this is also what the universe strive to make us to the best version of ourselves. And each and one of us, we have our own paths and our own timelines, but we can shift the timeline whenever we choose to, because that is the amazing gift of being a soul in a human body with a free will. I have the free will to choose.
Absolutely. Do you know, as you mentioned, there's so many things that I want to take deeper, but I can't. We still haven't got enough of your story, and I desperately do want people to hear that. And as I mentioned, it's obviously quite clear to me that we need at least another interview or two to really get down and have a deeper conversation about some of these things, because like some of my notes are obviously around sacred water, the elements and the connections with even angels, and how the angels are represented by elements, and how it's all energy, and the masculine, the feminine, stuff like that. So there's so much that I want to talk about. So I have to be really strict and disciplined here, because I need people to actually get to know you. Let me just bring you back, if that's okay, to that moment where it was such a powerful, and it evokes such a powerful memory, or not a memory, but an imagination. That part where, after all of these years of getting like 15 minutes of sleep and waking up with these horrific dream states, that you decided to take yourself off to, was it a cabin, was it your parents' cabin, I believe, and at one point you fell completely down in the snow and lay there for hours on end. Could you
Yes, you
talk
were.
us just a bit about that, because I believe that was a pivotal moment in your journey, in your awakening?
Thank you for asking and for taking me back. As you say, I can talk forever because obviously this is my passion, and I know it works because obviously I've been there, totally depressed. Yes, so I had two small children. The youngest were only a couple of months, and I was married at the time. And every night I had these, as I already mentioned, these horrible, horrible nightmares. And I, every night 2:47 when I woke up and I didn't know where I was so confused, and I was still, part in the dream and part awake. And, my heart was pumping and I could feel the taste of blood in my mouth. And all this time, my husband at the time, he lay next to me and he never knew what I was through every night. So I was just telling him that I was tired. I didn't tell anybody at the time that I, was suicidal, that I every morning was standing full of self-hatred in my eyes and looking myself into the mirror, and all I could see was this self-contempt and a lot of hatred. And I was standing there with a lot of pills for depression, for sleeping disorders, for anxiety attacks, with the pills in my hand, thinking, is this the day that I'm gonna, end my life? Because this is no life. This is no life. I was like a junkie. I was so sensitive to any light or any sound. So even my small kids, when they made a sound, I got angry and so on. So I just told my husband at the time that I was so tired, so I needed to rest. So I left to my parents' cabin in the Swedish archipelago, which is a beautiful, serene place out in the nature. And I was there and I'm thinking to myself, yeah, I'm finally going to be able to sleep. But I had to turn off the fridge and everything because I couldn't even stand those sounds.
Yeah.
My everything was so enhanced. And then, so the first night I come out and I didn't sleep, a bit. It was cold and I felt very alone and, far from my beloved ones. So I lay awake all night. And then in the morning, I could feel this unease moving within me. And I was so familiar with it. But at the time, I also had, a strategy trying to navigate through it. So I took long power walks, so I could also lose some calories at the time. I was very effective. So I have this uneasy feeling, and it's a beautiful day. It's snowing outside and the sun is shining, and you can see the snowflakes falling down like in one of these toys that you can shake. So I'm trying basically to run from myself and to run from this feeling and I'm increasing my pace there, walking in the forest. I'm there all by myself. And then it's like a volcano inside of me, and I'm so absolutely terrified because I have no idea what it is. So I'm trying to suppress it and I'm trying to walk faster and, to get sweaty so I get distracted. But I can feel that it's moving. And so it goes on like this for a while, and I'm totally terrified because I have no idea what's moving inside of me. And then all of a sudden I get like a stab right in my chest like this. It's so intense. And I just, I truly believe that I'm having a heart attack and that I'm going to die. And I'm remember at the moment because I have this crazy thought that, oh, the snow is coming up. The snow is coming up to hit me in my face. So it's actually me falling down. And I'm all cramped in fetus position, like holding my chest like this. And I can hear something snap within me. And then all of a sudden, this thing within me, I can't stop it anymore. I can't suppress it. It's like a wild force in itself. So I just hear some really horrifying noises, like somebody's dying, like a wounded animal. So I'm lying there, holding my chest with this intense pain, being stabbed with this knife, curled up in fetus position, falling down into the snow and hearing this wounded, this raged animal. And then I realize that it's me. So it's me. These sounds comes from deep, deep within me. I've never heard about them before. I didn't know that they were there. And so I lie here, trying to suppress the pain in my chest and and I hear all these funny noises, grunts, and my tears are just pouring down, hot, pouring down like lava. And so I lie there for hours and hours. And then when I come back to my senses, it's pitch black. And then I come to the realization that I've been there for hours and hours. And when all this eventually subsided, like the sobs, the grunting noises, the howling, the crying, and it subsided, and it was all pitch dark, and it was all still. It was like how I describe my meeting with God or source, or the universe, whatever you like to call it, because God is also programmed into being a religious system, right? So I was connected to something bigger than myself, and it was so still. It was like this stillness just expanded within me. And for the first time in my whole life, it was all still I didn't have the monkey mind, the thoughts telling me what to do, what to think, what to believe. And it was like, wow. And everything out in nature was enhanced. Like I could hear the snowflakes falling. I could see different shades of the pitch black. I could hear, an animal move far away. So then I noticed that this massive pain in my heart was also gone, just as sudden as it has come. And this was sort of as you say, like a turning point, like this, I need to do something. I can't live like this anymore. Either, I go back to my life and then I'm going to be dead. And then I'm of no use to nobody, not to my small children, not to my husband or anybody. And for the first time, I go back to the cabin. I don't light any lights because it's so, I just want to sit there in the darkness. I sit there by the fire, and I am, for the first time in my life, happy and all still. And I'm just content in a way that I can't describe it.
Yeah.
And so I sit there all night, and I go in and sit in the shower for a long time, in the hot shower, and it's like this knowing that, okay, finally we have your attention.
Yeah.
And it's going to be good. But the road back from where I was, I was so depleted. All my organs were so depleted from decades of poor sleep, 15 minutes of sleep for decades. So it took me many years to come back to just, the 0 point, and then like a bank account to build up the credit, or to come back to my heart. I've never been in my heart. I've never, been there. It's all been conditioned love. If I do this, then you love me more. If I do this, then, then I'm accepted or whatever. So it was the first time that I came into my heart, and I had this spiritual awakening, and with that also a sexual awakening. So, and I've told this story many times, because also for me, when I was suicidal, I one day put up the TV, and there was Oprah Winfrey show, and there was one person saying this one thing, that, I didn't commit suicide that day. So that's why I love to be in podcasts and to do with my books or whatever I do, my teachings, my classes, my soul readings, because if there's like one word or one thing that I do that resonates with one person out there, then I have paid back my debt, my karma.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I get quite emotional when I talk about it now as well, because it's easy now when I'm here. But when I was there, it was a living hell. And, I have so much love and affection for this poor person. She was so alone in all of this. And it was such a hard journey for her. But she made it, and she's here.
Absolutely. And that is such a beautiful, beautiful tale. And I can really, really appreciate and thank you so much for condensing. I can only get this kind of overview, this sense of condensing these decades down into this small 5-10 minute conversation, and the emotions that bring back, it goes beyond words. And the experience that you experienced, coming out of that is such a transcendent experience. It goes beyond words. It really does. I
It
can
does.
perfectly understand, you know, the pain, the misery that you went through every day, every waking hour for years and years on end, for decades, and then to try and condense that down into a 5-10 minute conversation for someone. So I just want to let you know that I really, really appreciate you taking the time to do that for me. I don't know how many people have said that for you, but I have this real empathy for you, and I have this sense of what it's like to try and do something like that. It's massive, massive part of your life. And although we are trying to ascend and heal from it, it's the scars must run so, so deep. And to have those emotions and to actually wear them on your sleeve and to be able to break down in front of a stranger on a public podcast takes a lot of bravery. And I can only thank you for doing that. And I wish you all the very best in your journey. And if you ever need healing, please ask me for it. I will do what I can as a spiritual healer in order to try and just bring that little bit more happiness and light into your life.
Thank you so much for the acknowledgement and for the generous offer. And as I said, that was just my starting point to coming
Yeah.
back, because it's no easy way to come back home to who we are after thousands of years of deep programmed. So it was a journey, and today I'm grateful for that journey, because obviously I wouldn't be here if I hadn't done it. And also to have, because for me it's also different between knowledge. You can read so many books and you can get it in theory and
Yes.
by your mind, but this embodied wisdom that I've been through and that I'm also sharing in my teachings, it's something. And then it's good to have somebody to hold on to in your hand, to somebody who has been there or done that. And because you are the one that needs to move your feet on your path and to clear out your karma and your traumas, but it's good to have somebody to hold in your hands while you're doing it. So and from this, I mean, I've grown so much, and all these, it's like a layer of an onion. You're peeling and peeling and peeling, and then when you think that, I've looked so much into this, and then it just comes back in another shape and form, and
Yeah.
you're being triggered by the outer society or something within yourself. I've just actually come back from a 3.5 month long purge.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it was
Wow.
also like being in hell. So that's for another talk.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I would love to hear more on that. I really would. It's such a fascinating journey. And as I said, the experience that you were talking about, with the sounds of nature being so enlivened, and being able to perceive even different shades of black, and even in that silence, you have this connection with source. Them experiences, or those experiences, go beyond anything that we can verbalize. It does not translate into human language. It needs to be experienced. And I think this is what's kind of so difficult about people like you, and these experiences. It's very hard to bring those experiences into a format that people can understand, because it's just kind of words, and you really need to be experienced to experience that. So what I'm kind of wondering is, how then did you get from that point there, if you can condense that down, to kind of like taking your life by your own, grasping the nettle, if you like, and saying, right, okay, now I've found a purpose. Now I'm being directed. Now things are finally beginning to move for me in my life. And I don't know at what point in your journey this came, but I did listen to a part where you had absolutely no money, but or let me just rewind there a bit. In your dreams, you had this idea of yoga, but it was unlike any yoga that you had come across. And I'm kind of wondering, because I haven't quite got to that part, or didn't quite get that part. At what point did you? Because I know you attended yoga classes. but they didn't match up with your vision. And I'm kind of wondering, did you discover your vision? At what point did you realize your vision could become a reality?
That's a good question, because at the time I was into yoga, but I was into a very masculine sort of yoga with a lot of yang energy. It's called Ashtanga yoga, with a lot of asanas, and it's a lot of fire. And that was also illusionary good for me. I thought it was good for me, but when I also had eating disorders, because I think, I'm doing yoga, now I can also burn calories. So it was totally wrong mindset on what yoga is.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, there were only so many masculine yoga forms and if you are burned out, you can even hear by the name that you have too much fire in your energy system. You're burned out, you're depleted, your organs are all fired up or burnt up. So I, finding myself from this starting point, I have taken so many different, healing modalities, classes, courses, silent retreats. I'm also sharing about an experience from a silent retreat in 247, where I'm sitting in 10 days in total silence. So there's no escape. You can't use your phone. You can't talk to anybody. You can't put the TV on. You can't go to the fridge if you're hungry. So you just sit there with yourself from like 4:30 in the morning till like 9:30 in the evenings. In silent retreat. So I did so many things to heal myself, and all these, to let all these unconscious programs and traumas come to the surface, because it's so easy. I mean, it's simple but not easy, really. It's really, really simple but not so easy when you're there, because basically it is that everything that we have been through in this lifetime and the past lifetimes, and everything that our ancestors have been through, is within ourselves, in our DNA. So we have so much things inside of us, and it's stored in our bodies, and we're not even aware of it. So, and if we're not aware of it, right, how can we change something that we're not even aware of? So the very first thing for a change to occur is to become conscious of it, is to become aware. Okay, here's a thing, like here's something that, it's nagging, or it doesn't feel right, or, something wants to be expressed or communicated through me. So the more of these traumas that I've allowed to come to the surface, so it could be witnessed, acknowledged, felt, and transformed. Because here's also the thing: if I have a lot of fear within me, I cannot replace it with, some joyous and positive affirmation. Everything is good and this is going all right, like so much of the spiritual community is doing.
Yeah.
If I have stored fear or grief or whatever I have stored, I have to, this is my personal and professional experience, so take whatever resonates with you. Okay. But so if I have all fear stored, then I cannot clear it out by being joy or, being happy or horny. I have to be in the essence that the emotion in itself was stored. And if it was stored as fear, then I have to face it as fear. If it was stored as grief, then I have to face it as grief, and I have to feel it. I have to not only mentally know about these things, I have to feel the grief. So it can be witnessed, like in quantum physics. If something is being witnessed, then it changes, it transforms. So by being the witness of your own pain and your grief and your traumas, you're both the witness, the observer, and you're also the participant, right? Because you feel the massive pain, like me lying there in the snow. So, but when you see it, you acknowledge it, you accept it, you feel it, and then you transform it. So for me to sort of answer your question, to come who I am today, like I had to, so many difficulties that I had to face, and so much pain, grief, sorrow, anxiety, doubts. I still doubt myself. I doubt, like if there's space for me in this world, as we talked before, like the world might not be ready for us. So who
Yeah.
am I if I'm not, if I'm sending out on a frequency and people are not there, you know? Is there space for me then? Can I be this corny and horny and happy and, you know, can I be too much of everything if I want to? So I really, at this starting point, starting in the snow, have basically like the onion peeled off, layers and layers of grief and traumas. And I've been the one in my family to tie up all the knots from my ancestors' trauma. And it's said that when somebody does it in the family line, it goes back at least 7 generations back and 7 generations to come. So, and I have 2 kids, so I do it for myself, but I also do it for them. And by doing it, I mean, each and one of us who are doing this clearing and this, as you say, courageous path that we're on, because it's not easy,
No.
because you get targeted. People don't understand you. People think that you're too much, and they say, okay, how long are you going to be like this? You know, blah, blah, blah. And people are getting provoked by you, or so. But each and one of us who does this dirty job, or, you know, like happiness is an inside job.
Yeah.
Being free is an inside job. But in each and one of us that is doing this, we are raising the collective consciousness, and we can thereby open the doors for others to follow.
Brilliant. That's truly inspiring. Absolutely amazing. I love listening to you. There's so much I can learn from you. There's so much that I want to talk about. But one of the points that you mentioned there, which is so salient, if I can use that word, I don't know what it means, but it sounds good, so I'm going to use it anyway, and hope that it means what I think it means. But one of the points that you mentioned there is that transformation is not easy. Doing this work is not easy. It is the hardest thing that you will do in your life. And when you are growing, when you're expanding, when you're transforming, you begin to change then as a person, and the people around you who have been used to you in a certain way don't understand this, and they begin to feel frightened, because change, even if it's for the positive in people's lives, is scary because it represents the unknown. And so even in jobs, if people know that potentially they should move from their job, I'm just using this as a reference, because it's good for them. A lot of people will stay there because change is scary. It's the unknown. And I guess that applies to a lot of people doing transformative work, doing the inner work, doing the shadow work, the dark night of the soul, whatever you want to call it. They shy away from that because it's scary and it represents change. They can feel themselves changing and they don't want to. And so they bury those feelings and, you know, try to busy themselves in life. Like there's so much that I want to talk to you about, but and I have to try and remember what it is that I want to talk about. So yeah, you're right. Change is uncomfortable, and I guess for us who try to grow and live in alignment with who we truly are, it becomes uncomfortable for people to see that too. Now, obviously, you are the person that you are, and I am kind of the person that I am, and I'm still changing as you still are. I'm still growing, still evolving. But I'm becoming more of the person that I want to be, the person who I truly am. And part of that is obviously this integration of the feminine energies into the masculine form. And that is bringing about so much transformation within me for the better. And part of that is a change in the mannerisms that I have, a change in the behaviors that I have, a change even in the outer appearance that I have, not to mention on a cellular level, but how I even interact with people. And it's hard because, as you quite rightly say, people don't understand it. People can ridicule you for the person that you're becoming, the way you talk, the way you dress, the way that you behave. So it is hard, and sometimes it does feel that we're trying to bring this to a society, and we're kind of light years away from where they currently are. And you're right, it's kind of like, well, am I ever going to get through? Is what I'm doing going to be of a benefit to anybody? But I'm trying to make a point out of this. And I guess when I, pretty much like yourself, you read about some of these people going back 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 years ago, when their message wasn't understood then. And it's kind of only now in today's society where they're being remembered, where their work is kind of being dusted off and understood. Part of me wonders about that. Part of me wonders is what we're trying to bring to this world really going to be a benefit in future generations rather than in the immediacy, in the now?
Good question. I think both, because everything also, we are also multidimensional beings. We are not, I mean, our bodies are here in Matrix movie, like these the illusionary physically bodies, because basically we don't even have the bodies. We're just energy. It's just energy spinning in a certain, frequency, and then that's why we believe that these bodies are real. I mean, they are real in 3D, but then again, they're not real, if you know what I'm saying. So I think it occurs as multidimensional beings and also living in parallel, timelines, that it can be both. So we are both affecting right now as the past and the future connects right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if my timeline, if I would have stayed there in my timeline, then I would have died, and I wouldn't have had these experiences and this embodied wisdom to share. And so my energy would have, that would have been my energy contributing to the world, sort of where I was then. So it's both happening now and also it has already happened, and it's also going to affect. Is that like answering your question? Because
Yeah,
you have to think in like our thoughts, for instance. I think that they are in 4D, like they are very real, but they are not in like physical form, but they're
yes,
still energies, and
yes.
we're influenced by them.
Yeah, absolutely. I do understand what you're saying. I guess I just didn't want to alienate anyone who doesn't understand what we're talking about. Ultimately, time is an illusion. It's something that
It
we
is.
experience here, but it doesn't really exist. Certainly in the higher planes, it's completely different. My
Exactly.
understanding is that they don't operate by time, they operate by space. It's kind of reversed. I don't quite understand it myself, but ultimately, what we're experiencing, the past, the present, the future are all happening simultaneously at the
Exactly.
same time. And this is
Exactly.
what makes time travel kind of possible.
Yeah.
Even creation itself, everything that has ever been and everything that ultimately will be is happening simultaneously at the same time. It's just a hard concept to try and get your mind around when you're trying to live in this 3D reality. Sometimes we can be in those higher dimensions, we can be in those higher realities, and then when we kind of interact or bump into someone who's kind of hasn't got that global consciousness yet, we're forced to operate on their 3D level, and it can be kind of frustrating. So yes, I do perfectly understand what you're talking about, and I understand all these kind of timelines. I just wanted your kind of input on that.
And I also want to add, sorry for interrupting, but it's
Go
also
ahead.
like what I am saying now and what I have experienced, it's nothing new. It is stored in the Akashic record, because
Yeah.
each and one of us souls, we have an Akashic record, and the Akashic record is like Google for the soul. So you have one Akashic record, like you have a whole Google for yourself. I have mine, and each and one of us has. And then there's this higher like consciousness where all the Akashic records are. That's
Yeah.
how also like yoga says that we are. Yoga means union or connection, and that's also, yoga aims for me to be connected with my darkness, with my lightness, to connect with the feminine and to connect with the masculine, to connect my body, mind, and spirit, to connect with the conscious feminine and conscious masculine, because we need both. I cannot only be in my heart. I need the clarity from the divine masculine that can cut through like a sword through all the bullshit that we have surrounded ourselves with, like from ourselves and from society. So we need the masculine, the clarity to cut through all the bullshit that we are busy doing.
Yes.
And also quantum physics means entanglement. So we are entangled both body, mind, and spirit, and also in these Akashic records. And so here you can find the information of your soul, the who you are at the soul level, what star system do you come from, what energies do you carry, what are your gifts, and these readings I do. And so also what I'm saying is like, millions of people before me have said this. It is just that us in this modern society, living these stressful and busy lives, we have forgotten. So that's also one thing to remember, because we know it's in each and one of us. We have access to it if we choose to.
Yeah,
We
absolutely.
just need to clear out the old shits before we get to the goodie.
You are right. Just before we turn our attention to the divine feminine and masculine and things like that, there, I did want to touch on that because it's been playing a recurring theme throughout this interview of our modern lifestyles. And I, like you, I'm constantly talking about it. I'm constantly talking about how we're not living in a natural life. And this is why when we go into nature and we begin to relax and we begin to detox, then things begin to drop away and we begin to relax because we are living naturally. We are living as nature intended it to. And when we come into our cities and our built up environments, we have so much pollution with noise pollution, traffic pollution, electromagnetic signals, mobile phones, food, the list goes on. Stress, demands on our times, appointments to keep, telephone calls to make, emails to send, children, if you have them, their schooling and stuff like this, deadlines to make. We're completely living in a very unnatural way. And this is why, probably like you, that I absolutely need large times in nature, need huge amount of times in nature on my own, away from everyone, because I need to detox and I need to bring myself back to the very basic elements and that, and I need to reconnect with nature. And I've actually been out once, and I've actually reconnected with the trees, with the environment. I actually felt them as living beings when I touched them. I felt a connection with them on a deep level. I felt they were communicating with me on a deep level. This beautiful transcendent experience, as you rightly say, we can't put into words. And it's beautiful when you're in that state because you want to kind of live in there. But unfortunately, and I always say that, my ideal holiday, if I won the lottery, would not be a kind of like luxurious location. It would probably be somewhere in the depths of Papua New Guinea, with a lost civilization, if not somewhere on my own. And I would quite happily live there. But I think the problem with that is, and as someone who is kind of introverted like yourself, and that might sound strange to people who are joining this here, how can they be an introvert when they're doing all of this kind of spiritual work? But it brings me back to this point again, is that although we want to be on our own, although we want to be in nature and have this connected life, we need to be in society. We need to be in amongst people in order to facilitate this shift and this change within people. And so it becomes a necessary part of our being, regardless of how we kind of feel on a personal level or what we want in our personal lives. We're here to serve. We're here to serve the rest of humanity who aren't quite there yet.
Yeah, for sure. We are here to serve ourselves first, because it's like with the old cliche with the oxygen mask on planes. Like if I don't use the oxygen mask to myself first, then I can't help my children with the oxygen masks if I pass out. So we're here to serve ourselves. We're here to serve others, for sure. And yeah, that's an interesting thing. Yes, I'm very much an introvert. I love I mean, I love people. That's why I do it. I mean, we are brilliant. We are godlike, for God's sake. But we are also so stupid and so ignorant and so brainwashed. And I get very tired. So
Yeah.
I can never work like, the norm. Again, this norm. Somebody said, we need to work 40 hours a week. That's the normal thing to do. I cannot do that, because when I've, like, even with this interesting pod that we are having, and we are, truly in our hearts, and the energy is from the heart. But this also means that we are so present, right? So it takes also a lot of energy and a lot of effort to be present and to hold space. And like when I'm working, so I work, I don't have much money, because people
Yeah.
also think I'm a free spirit. I live an abundant life. And people say, well, how can you live abundant if you don't have a lot of money? Because money is just energy. Money is just a perception of energy, and it's meant to flow, and it's not meant to be sitting on a bank account. Money
Yeah.
is meant to, flow, like everything is meant to flow. So I have enough money for the life that I've created for myself. And when I don't have money, new money is coming in.
Yeah, I can understand that. Like yourself, I cannot go back to that. I just it does nothing for me. I just end up resenting, having to go out and give my labor over for something that I know is not the life that we should be leading. And unfortunately, like yourself, because of that, I don't have a lot of money. But whatever money that I have is just about enough. And as I kind of put my faith in that and say, well, when I don't have enough money, money will come to me. I will be looked after. I know, because this is my path. This is what I'm meant to do. And if I wasn't doing it, then the money would drive up. So somewhere, somehow, money seems to come to me whenever I need it. And
Exactly.
it does take money. I mean, doing this podcast requires me to pay a subscription for the use of it. It costs electricity to run the laptop, the equipment, to have a website and a domain. They all cost money at the end of the day. And I guess people who probably aren't involved in this kind of media don't quite understand that there is quite a number of overheads, and just even trying to get your message out to the world and having people, or a place for people to come and connect with you. So it does cost money to do that, and I guess it's that kind of old adage, if I can use another word, which I don't really mean, but it sounds good. um, it's that kind of old concept of that old way of living, where people think that I need money, and when they get themselves into that mindset, they'll never have enough, and this is why they're trapped in that hamster wheel of constant, productivity and working. Whereas if they take a step back from doing what they're doing, as scary as it may be, and reevaluate their lives, then they'll actually find that I am actually more productive, and I can get more done without committing to that lifestyle.
Yes, and I also want to add, like, the yogic perspective on this with money, because money is, money from the beginning is meant to keep us safe, to keep us secure, to have a roof over our head, food to eat, to provide for our families. And it's very connected to the root chakra. And again, we come back to the root chakra, being in our bodies, being connected to
Mhm.
Mother Earth. And we are not connected to Mother Earth the way we pollute her and the way we treat her.
Yeah.
I mean, we basically rape Mother Earth. So that means also that, our whole perception of money is also programmed. And because if yeah, everything is just energy. I mean, this is a whole topic in its own, because but the more clear I am in my energetic system, the more shit basically I have cleared out from my cells, from my DNA, from my traumas, the more access I have to free flow, and that includes money. Just 2 days ago, I was actually thinking, oh, I need some money now. And then yesterday I sold, like, 3 books. So I and people are talking about the law of attraction, and there is such a thing as law of attraction, but many people are just confusing it with mental. They are saying things, they do vision boards, whatever. But if their inner energy is stuck, if they're full of frozen emotions and traumas, then the energy can't move so easily. We are all manifestors, we are all divine creators, but if the energy is not, and then you can have, like old contracts about money also that we can do karma clearings about. So people can have unconsciously programs about money. I need to have more money because they need to feel safe and secure. So then they need to work more on their root chakra to feel more grounded and connected in who they are in their bodies. So that's also another aspect of money, is because now that I am grounded and my chakras are aligned and I am who I am at the soul level, I'm very much aligned to my soul and my soul's purpose. Then things are just flowing naturally. And this is also nothing that I can explain logically or with words.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. And this is the thing, we need to understand, once again, about these concepts like chakras and stuff, and how to overcome blockages and to get them more in alignment. And I talk about that too, but I also talk about the purpose of this is, and a lot of people, when they talk about chakras and that kind of sort of stuff and overcoming blockages, it's this kind of modern, I don't know if it's modern, but it's this kind of aspect of the kundalini. I want to have a kundalini awakening. I'm gonna, this. And it's slow down. It's not about that. It's about becoming more in alignment with yourself. It's about uncovering these aspects of yourself which are causing these blockages, so that you can allow that energy to rise. And it's a two-way system. We have the energy that comes up and we have the energy that comes down, as you quite rightly say. And these energies are meant to blend with one another. And clearing balances, I think the concepts of the teachings that I understand, it's not so much about having these chakras full open so that we can have these energies come and, be like Jesus or whatever themselves. It's about having them in balance with one another. As the yin, the yang, the light, the dark, the feminine, the masculine, everything is in balance. This is what it is. You can't have one without the other. So what we're trying to do is becoming more balanced within ourselves, not to have this, a kundalini experience in which we are away wherever else. If these things take a lot of work. And going back to the yogi practices, there's yogis who have been doing that for 40, 50 years, and they've still not got that kundalini realization. We in the kind of Buddhist philosophy, a lot of people in the West mistake, and they all have these little Buddha statues on there without actually realizing, and they kind of think, well, that's Buddha. He was this person, but Buddha is just a term. It means enlightened one. And most Buddhists and realized people will understand that you're not meant to worship the Buddha. You're trying to become a Buddha. You're trying to become an enlightened being. And so it's this idea of what we're trying to work towards. And it takes a lifetime, many lifetimes. But the most important parts of that is learning to ground and learning to overcome blockages so that we can be in balance with one another.
Exactly.
And this is what the idea of the divine masculine and the divine feminine is. It's not so much, and this is a problem in modern society. I don't want to go off at a tangent here, where we have this silly concept of people using their pronouns in front of their name. I am Mrs. and Miss, and I am Mr. and Mr. You're going the opposite direction. We need to be coming more together. We need to be integrating these two energies so that we can be a balanced person. And this is just what I kind of wanted to talk about what the divine feminine and divine masculine actually mean, because a lot of people think that it's the divine feminine is simply for women and divine masculine is simply for male, and it's obviously not quite that at all.
No, and I mean, my God, we could talk for hours. I really need to go soon. My puppy
Yes,
needs food.
absolutely.
But I just
We're
want to
coming
say
to the
also
end
that
anyway.
that is what you're saying, and so we are unbalanced on an individual level, and that means that our societies and the collective consciousness is also unbalanced. It's as simple as that. So coming back to basic, and it starts like the balance actually starts in the root chakra,
Mhm.
right? We need to go back into our roots. We need to go
Absolutely.
back into more connection with nature and ourselves, and because we don't have roots, we are not grounded, we are not anchored, and that means that we are always in the ascending flow, always flying, moving towards something, escaping from something. But if you are rooted in yourself and in your roots and the root chakra, and most of us people in the Western societies, like the first three chakras that is representing our unconscious mind, most of us, we are so unimbalanced from, all the way from the root chakra. And then many of us live here. We overthink, we prioritize rational and logical thinking. So many people are just living from the headspace. And that means that the energy has left from the chakras, from the chakra system. So you're just like a walking, talking head. And that's why it's so important, again, with the descending flow, the feminine flow, the connection to yourself, to your body,
Mm-hmm.
and to accept and to love your body the way it is, and to clear out from a cellular level and from the karmic perspective all the shit that is dragging us down so much, so we try to escape.
Absolutely beautiful. This is what I love about having you on, because you explain concepts in a deeper and hopefully a more clear way than I can. So just before we go, because as we said, we're definitely going to do this again. We need to have another few interviews, because we haven't even got half of what I wanted to talk about. So we're definitely going to do this again. But like, just for the purpose of this kind of interview, for anyone who's listening in this interview and immediately wants to connect with you and immediately wants to take advantage of what you have to learn, could you let us just quickly know about some of the teachings and the coachings that you do, and the retreats, including your tantric yoga, which you teach in sacred spaces?
Thank you. So my website is www.ulliskarlsson.com, so ulliskarlsson.com. It is not updated. I'm not very fan of sitting in front of the computers. I'm a more fan of interacting with people. But it's there. My contact information is there, and I like from my books that I really recommend,
Which are
247
on
AM.
Amazon as
They are on
Kindle as well.
Amazon, yes, on Amazon. And my new book is being launched now, the
Oh, wow.
6th of June 2022. So it's 666 numerological speaking.
Oh,
So it's clearing the number of the beast,
yeah,
for
yeah.
sure. So that book is also about the divine soul and these times that we are living in. And if you want to have a yogic consultation or soul reading, karma clearing, and yeah, Ullis Karlsson is where you find me. I just got back to Facebook, actually, because I've been banned and censored from Facebook,
Why?
being too much, speaking my truth. So yeah. But anyway, you find me on Ullis Karlsson, and I would love to hear from you if you have any questions or reflections or feedback, or if you want any of my services. But all my books are books that are here to inspire and to reactivate your path.
Yeah, I wish you had sent me a copy of one of your books, because I definitely
I
would
will
have
do
read it.
so.
Yeah,
I
do
will
it.
do it.
I would love to read them all. I've read so many books, and I was actually surprised to find out that you were an author. And why didn't she send me her books to read? I'd be absolutely delighted to read them. So look, yes, thanks so much, and we'll include those links in the episode when the episode actually gets published. publicly. This is just the live broadcast. And just before you go, Ulrika, could you please, if you can, leave our viewers, our listeners, with one kind of key concept that they can take away now and immediately put into practice?
All is well.
Okay, that's fantastic. I couldn't have said it any better
So
myself.
even if you are suffering right now, if you find yourself in a dark place, maybe you are just, a seed that have been planted and to become a new plant. And the word depressed, if you feel that you're depressed, you can also translate it into deep rest, that you are in a deep rest, your body, mind, and soul. So all is well. Your
Absolutely.
soul know what it's doing. Trust
Yeah,
it.
I just live by that maxim. I've used that term myself on a number of occasions, and there's something about it that just it provides so much reassurance when you just tell yourself that, because ultimately
Yeah,
all will be well. So
yeah.
thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. It has been an absolute pleasure talking with someone as inspirational, as informative, and serves so much as a teacher for myself as well. And I'm really, really looking forward to doing this again and diving into so much of the stuff that we didn't. And I can almost guarantee, but when the second interview comes around, we'll still not have everything that we want to talk about.
No,
but
thank you so much for having
you,
me and for this space that you're holding and for the heartfelt connection. And thank you for being open also to receive me. Some are not. So thank you for receiving me and also acknowledging me and my journey. And you're doing a great job, and your work is truly important as well. Like you are like the beacon with your podcast that brings up hard subjects and taboo topics, which is supposed to be talked about, because then the tabooness and the weirdness is gone. So thank you so much, and thank you also for you who's listening, and please connect.
Absolutely, please. That's kind of my message. It's not about so many in the spiritual community do. I was just talking about this last night, and living in their own kind of spiritual bubbles and thinking that I need to have more followers, I need to have more gain. You're still living by that old ego, that old paradigm. You're meant to be spiritual people. We need to come together. We need to connect. We need to join forces so that we can make change in the world. Take the ego out of it. It's not about how many followers you have, about how popular you are. It's about making connections. And I have made a very deep and long lasting connection with you, Ulrika. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute honor. And with that, I'll see you soon.
Thank you so much, and the same to you. You are